Assassin's Creed is back again after a 1 year hiatus, and this time things are different. You no longer have to follow dudes over and over to do missions. Except for that one time you had to follow this girl. Oh, and that one time you had to follow this old guy. And yeah, there's this one time you had to take this guy on a boat. Yeah, that's still generally what you do in this game. But this is Assassin's Creed Origins. And kidding aside, Ubisoft's open world games has always had a bit of repetitiveness in their missions, especially if you're a crazy guy like me who has to talk to every NPC and fix every problem in the game. Clearly though, what you're supposed to do is sit back and take in the sights, because holy crap, this game is beautiful. The scenery itself in this world, set in one of the most interesting eras of ancient Egypt, with iconic personalities like Cleopatra and Julius Caesar, is absolutely brilliant. It's a massive, sprawling world full of people, animals, deserts, marshlands, rivers, and it's got the pyramids. No big deal, right? But it is a big deal. Before this game, I knew very little about life in real ancient Egypt, and now I have a better idea. People farm weird, colorful flowers. There were a lot of fishing boats roaming around, and evil Ptolemy soldiers would patrol around carrying precious bronze and iron to be plundered so I can craft better armor. Okay, maybe some of that was in the game, but it's really hard to see where real Egypt ends and Ubisoft's dev team starts. You get to climb the pyramids. And I haven't looked it up, but I can't really tell if it's to scale or not, or how accurate the representation is of the Sphinx or Alexandria, or Lord knows what else. In my mind, I'm in actual BC Egypt. So the world, it's mystical. What's on the wrong side of mystical though is the frame rate. I played on the standard PS4 and it really does drop down to the high teens. Generally, you'll be playing at 30 FPS in less busy areas, but pick a fight with a handful of soldiers and it really gets chuggy. I turned on my TV's motion interpolation feature and never looked back. If I were you, I'd choose the PC version if I could. 30 FPS targets aside, the game still remains for the most part very enjoyable. Combat has been retooled to become a more Dark Souls-like system, with weapons having effective range and speed. Parry and blocking is important, as well as dodging. Admittedly though, enemies tend to be samey except for one thing. Some would be more annoying when it comes to perfectly dodging or blocking. It would be nice if Ubisoft would identify the annoying enemies better so you can switch up tactics. Thankfully, you don't have to do a lot of actual fighting. Stealth mechanics are present in the game and is primarily the way I went about, clearing out camps of enemies, looting them for treasure, and occasionally picking them off with my bow are my preferred styles.
You think I'm an idiot, huh? I'll show you.
The open world nature of the game allowed for a lot of experimentation with your approaches. For example, the new RPG leveling elements have three main branches: archery, close combat, and subversive tools like sleep darts and poison. Of course, the way you go about doing things in this game still reminds me of Assassin's Creed games of years past, but thankfully there's no more follow target that moves extremely slowly type of missions. Still, it boils down to quests that ask you to go from point A to point B, kill C, talk to D, and investigate E. Most times you'll eventually be asked to kill a bunch of soldiers, or animals, or clear a camp, or assassinate someone. All in a day's work for an Egyptian protector, I suppose.
And I have the right to protect myself. Men!
And yes, you're called Bayek the Medjay, an Egyptian protector. Does it make any difference? Not really, but suffice it to say, because of your stately nature, you come into contact with a dark group called the Order, and due to something they did, you now want revenge. You're joined and or play as your wife Aya at some points, which is about as good a protector as you are and is basically a female Bayek with extra naval ship battles kicked in. So, what's the story, Morning Glory? Aside from the revenge plot, there's some loose ties with things that were happening in Egypt at the time. You'll interact with big names like Cleopatra, Ptolemy, Caesar, and the like. Some other characters also show up, but I don't even know if they're fiction or not. However, none of these matter so much because they were never really fleshed out. In games like Zelda Breath of the Wild, for example, there were major charismatic characters that represented the four big divine beasts you had to beat. Those beasts were epic creatures you climbed in and out of and watched in awe as they sprang to life. As well, the characters introduced had deep meanings with both Zelda and Link, and when you finished up their chapter, they bade a really emotional farewell.
Father, are you well, I wonder? I want you to know I have always followed my heart. I'm sorry I made you worry. I wish I could see you again. Even just once more.
Siwa, there are others to whom I must deliver justice. Especially the one known as the Snake.
How will you find these men?
Aya has been tracking them in Alexandria.
In contrast, Origin's characters are not very memorable. This guy is a good guy, that one was bad, he killed things, I think, and you killed him, and he did the whole cutscene drama when he died, but who is he again? Why do they always talk so vaguely about stuff? Also, why do you never get a rewarding emotional scene in Assassin's Creed? Why do the cutscenes always end up just making you more sad, even though you just killed the big bad? I don't know. There's actually a part near the end where somebody dies, and this is supposed to make you really angry. But you never really had a moment with this person, and that's how these characters all felt, including Aya, your wife. So by the end of the story, I felt fairly emotionless, despite the game giving you this whole hopeful shot of what is supposedly the start of the Assassin's organization. I just scratched my head. I'm supposed to be blown away, but it all seems too convenient. I wanted a plot twist, or I wanted some Metal Gear revelation that would blow my mind. This is the origins of the Assassin's organization. It almost felt like these characters stumbled into becoming assassins in the end. This is not noble nor exciting, and I think fanboys would be disappointed that it wasn't as epic an origin story as these guys deserve.
I just wait in the shadows, and I will kill you all. Everyone who sniffed the air that day in Siwa!
But that's always been the case with Assassin's Creed games, isn't it? It's never really the story we're after. In fact, don't even bother wasting your time outside the Animus, because that part shouldn't have been in the game in the first place. So what then am I happy to report about in Origins? Well, the game's highest point turns out to be just walking around the seaside of northern Egypt during sunrise, solving some random NPC's problems, and taking it all in. I would love it if Ubisoft drops a few extra mini activities along the way. I would like to pick up medieval Egyptian gambling, or fishing, or buying a house, or heck, why not a quest to knock the nose out of the Sphinx? DLC maybe? But mainly your reward for playing Assassin's Creed Origins is really Egypt itself. The political undertones of the time, the mysticism of the Egyptian gods, and beliefs in the afterlife. Getting lost in huge tombs, and taking it all in. The fact that I now know more about the era, the people, and even just where Giza is relative to everything is reward in itself. We'll probably never see this location and timeline in any other game out there, and that's what makes this game a unique, awe-inspiring experience. Imagine living in a time of the samurai and being part of that world, or a time when China was still building its Great Wall. Ubisoft has successfully done that for ancient Egypt. No documentary in National Geographic could ever put you in the shoes of Bayek the Medjay and take a boat through the Nile River. Only Assassin's Creed Origins can do that.